Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and today I pulled some clips from the interview Tony with Thinking Crypto did with the CEO of Flare and Songbird Networks, Hugo Philion. It was an absolutely great interview, and I appreciate Tony and Hugo for having the conversation. Going to go over a few, I think, key things or things that stood out to me and Mickey when we checked it out and kind of talk about those. Additionally, before that, though, I do want to make an announcement. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing a live stream and having Crypto Siege back on. I think the last time we had Siege on was in July, and it seemed that people really enjoyed the conversation. Unfortunately, Mickey had something come up that day and wasn't able to make it, so it was just me and Siege. However, we'll have the three of us together, talk DeFi, Flare, Songbird, and whatever else we can come up with. So definitely tune in for that if you're around tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST. So with that, let's get into the first clip we have for today.
And really, why did we come at it this way? Well, you've got these huge communities and this massive amount of value that is kind of locked out of the smart contract system today. Some people say, oh, but you can wrap Bitcoin. Well, you can't wrap Bitcoin. You can't do that in a way that is trustless. So you've got the issues with either having to use a registered custodian or a bridge, which actually today, pretty much every bridge model we look at is actually really just an unregistered custodian. So basically, they custody your funds, but they're not registered, and there's no financial protection for that. No regulator is looking after them, and it's basically it's pretty dangerous. So these are cross-chain bridges we're talking about, not things like Plasma or whatever, but cross-chain bridges that people are using to get value from one chain to another.
All right. So with that first clip there, Hugo is referring to the F asset system and the state connector system and how it's utilized to facilitate the trustless movement of value from one network onto another. So with the F asset system, we know of, one model that we've kind of covered a lot, which is the agent minter model, where basically an agent is essentially lending you collateral so that you can mint F assets onto the Flare network. That process requires you to give up the underlying asset, but is either redeemable at any point in the future, or you'll get paid out in that Spark collateral to make you whole if for some reason that can't happen. And this is something that Hugo's team really believes in. I don't want to get into too much about, how decentralized or centralized something is, but there definitely is a, conversation or debate around multi-sig bridges where essentially you just have to have, maybe like 6 or 7 signers, or it could be less, decide if funds are moved in or out of a smart contract wallet. So, with that, we saw the Poly network hack back in, I think it was the summer for $500 million. That's a cross-chain bridge. And essentially, all of the assets that get moved cross-chain, so let's say you have like maybe $200 million worth of Ethereum being moved to another blockchain. Some of these models concentrate all the Ethereum within a single smart contract that basically has this multi-sig set up to allow it to move in and out. So, if you can break into that, that is a huge concentration of risk. And so what they do with the F asset system is they spread it out across a bunch of different parties. They utilize collateral as a failsafe. And that kind of allows, like, let's say one person gets affected by a negative outcome. It doesn't necessarily spread to everybody else involved in the F asset system. So with that, we're going to hop into the next one that will kind of carry on with his first thoughts.
Flare does it as it creates what we think is a genuinely, for the first time, a trustless bridge. So a bridge that doesn't have a custodian, a bridge that if the multi-sig wallet behind it bricks, well, there is no multi-sig wallet in the Flare bridge, but ultimately the existing bridges use some form of multi-sig, whether they like to tell you about it or not. And when that multi-sig bricks, ultimately there's no way to recover those funds. So the nice thing that we've done with our trustless bridge is that we've essentially moved the bridge or the key components of the bridge to the consensus level. And we then use consensus to essentially manage that bridge. And what that means is that, little bits of it, so each particular person or a set of relationships inside of the bridge, they can brick, they can die, they can go wrong. But the system itself as a whole can carry on. And that's a massively key difference between what we're doing with Flare and how bridges have traditionally been structured. And we can only do that because of FBA. So
All right, there you go. So one thing he adds on to the end, that this kind of bridge was only possible for them to create with the F asset system because of Federated Byzantine Agreement and the fact that the native asset can be used for collateral in this F asset system rather than being used to secure the network by staking within a proof of stake system. So that's one of the big points there. Additionally, he talks about how they bring that to the consensus level. So if you think about it, you never really hear about anybody getting like their like account hacked on the layer 1 blockchain. Like nobody's breaking those cryptographic I guess means to create these addresses. And so with that, there's no smart contracts that the XRP that you mint as FXRP, it's not being stored in any smart contracts or anything like that. So it kind of diffuses the risk in a pretty big way compared to some of these maybe semi-trustless bridges using multi-sig accounts. So with that, let's hop into the next one.
I think it's really important for me to preface this with Songbird's a Canary network. Our principal interest in the Canary network is to test the protocols that will be essentially the first rollout of Flare. And so, we didn't do anywhere near the amount of haranguing of exchanges that we did with the Flare distribution. Flare distribution is the most supported distribution that has ever happened, as far as I know, in blockchain. From a utility fork or any kind of fork. And the fact that Songbird's getting support, which is for essentially a fork for a Canary network, for something that we have explicitly stated is not the mainnet, is way beyond our expectations and way beyond, to be honest with you, much that has happened in the past. So I think the support for Songbird is extremely good right now, way beyond what you should expect. Having said that, I am well aware that there have been a number of exchanges that have said either nothing or said that they're waiting for the network to become stable. So it's really important to address the stable point. Right. The network is stable. It's done 1 million blocks. When we talk about the things we want to test, the things that are potentially unstable, these are things like the state connector. These are things like the FTSO. These are things like the F assets. These are the protocols that we want to launch. But they go on to the network, but they're not necessarily going to brick the network. They're not going to make the network on.
All right, so this portion, I'm really, glad that they were able to talk about it and kind of what's going on with the airdropping of the Songbird token. Obviously, a lot of exchanges haven't released it yet. I will say, I think there are a lot of exchanges that said they are going to already, and ones that are, pretty common throughout the industry. We're going to have Crypto.com, Uphold, Bitstamp, Binance just announced today that they're supporting it. I really feel like out of the major holdouts, it's like Nexo and Celsius right now, so two of the big CeFi providers, and then additionally Coinbase and Binance US. I will say that as long as they have the tokens, they could deliver them 6 months from now if whatever reason they're like, oh, hey, we can make money now off Songbird, so let's distribute these tokens so hopefully people keep them on our platform. Now, you could argue that if it's 6 months out, that people are going to be so pissed they're definitely leaving anyways. But there is a path forward for people to get them. It just may take longer. Additionally, he said they weren't harassing the exchanges about doing this when it was a huge undertaking for them to get over 100 exchanges on board, which I believe Hugo said in the past, this is like the biggest coordinated airdrop in crypto. And so with that, they get these agreements with all the exchanges to deliver Spark. They decide late this past July that they're going to launch Songbird. And, there's really no way they didn't, I guess the way they thought to distribute it was to do it to the same people that have been supporting from the beginning, that have been waiting longer than what Hugo originally expected and his team for them to finish up. So like, all right, we're going to do this Canary network. It fits in with our plan. We can utilize it in the future. We'll give these tokens to the people that have been waiting with us for a long time for this airdrop. So, to me, that's why they didn't do a new one. Plus, doing a new one would require all kinds of, new stuff to be set up and new relationships with exchanges and all that. So it just would be very difficult. Also, these exchanges, they have partners. Some of them do their custody. Some of them help them with their infrastructure. If they don't have their partners on board to support the asset, it can take time for that to happen. So that's another reason it's running late. It's a Canary network. Flare says, be careful, it's experimental. This is the, unfinished Flare code, prior to the Flare launch coming out. So certainly, I think at this point, it's worked fine. I don't really have any hesitations about having Songbird in a Songbird address or anything like that, or using the FTSO at this point. I think it's proved itself. Additionally, I'd add, we get a lot of responses from customer support, and I imagine those are the last people in the world that know what's going on as far as what the exchange is going to do. So replies from customer support, I would personally take with a grain of salt. They're not the ones that ultimately make the decisions on this stuff. But like Hugo said, he thinks the support's been amazing. I'm shocked at how many exchanges have already decided to come out and do it. The fact that Binance already has, and we're, only a little over a month in, that was surprising to me. I thought it would take maybe somebody like them longer down the road. So obviously another thing, they don't want to harass these exchanges. And Hugo's said this in the past. Flare Network is set up for, centralized finance providers and stuff like that to tap into the network, institutions to tap into the network. So these exchanges, they could be agents in the F asset system in the future. They could be signal providers to the FTSO. So there's a lot of things that they could possibly do and provide services for on the Flare network. And I don't think that he wants to ruin those relationships so early on just for the Canary network. Like their cream of the crop product is Flare network. It's not Songbird network. If Songbird does really well and develops really well and there's a great community around it, that's great, but it's not the end goal. So with that, I'll jump into the next one that kind of carries on this farther.
Can confirm that, a large number of the exchanges that have essentially not said anything or have made comments where they're saying it's not stable, they are talking to us and working with us about, trying to get information about the network, asking us to provide them information. So they're actively thinking about it. I won't give you any names because I'm sure the teams there would not appreciate that.
Sure.
And we must give them, if they are or aren't going to do anything, we must give them room to make their own decisions. We can't force anyone's hand.
Yep.
All right. So, to give some more people hope, Hugo said in that clip basically that they are working with some exchanges that haven't made their intentions clear yet. So, I think there's still hope for a lot of people that they'll get this thing by the end of the year, potentially, maybe even November, hopefully. I know, there's several lined up to be airdropping here at the end, I guess, probably November at this point, since we got 3 days left. And then additionally, we have more coming. And, at least they're reaching out to Hugo's team and they're able to help out with that. So moving into this last part, let's check out this clip.
This is the first model of thing that we can build with the state connector. State connector being this thing that allows us to see what's happened on another network. Now, there's a different way to earn essentially foreign currency. So your XRP, even your Ethereum, maybe. And that is, we have the FTSO, this data provider, and people could stake against the data provider. So basically, put some money into a smart contract and say, I'm going to deliver the price of Dogecoin against the dollar, and I'm going to deliver that to the Ethereum network. And I'm going to ask people on Ethereum to pay me some fraction of a penny for every 500 signals I deliver. And I'm going to stake against that. And if I'm wrong, if I deliver a crap signal, if I lie, you can take 50% of my stake per time that I lie. And the stake connector can be the thing that determines whether you lied or not on the Ethereum network. And so,
all right, there we go. So Hugo had brought this up in his last interview with Uphold and brought it up again here. Some of the different use cases for the stake connector system aside for the F asset system. So we know with the F asset system, if you operate as an agent, you can collect fees in assets from external networks. So that would be right now XRP, Doge, Algo, Litecoin, and Stellar. So all 5 of those can be earned by agents once the F asset system is up and running on Songbird Network, and then in the future on Flare as well. Additionally, we're going to have more F assets added via governance, which Hugo did stress in this that there won't be any more assets added by them. It'll be by governance with everybody else involved. Brought up the fact that with that clip we just saw, that another way to externally or earn external assets with assets on Flare Network is through the FTSO. So we know one of the problems with DeFi in the past has been lack of decentralization and reliability in these oracles. There has been numerous DeFi hacks because some kind of oracle was able to be attacked. So, part of the centerpiece of the entire Flare network is the oracle. And especially for cross-chain interoperability, that's going to be a huge thing. And additionally, with tokenization and derivatives. So they basically took the proof of stake consensus model or proof of stake economic model. And instead of using that at the consensus layer for security, they're using it at the FTSO layer that they built to incentivize the decentralization of it. So in the scenario he's talking about, essentially is, let's say the FTSO becomes the premier oracle in the future and other connected networks want to tap into that, or maybe dApps on some of those networks want to use the oracle from Flare because maybe it's the best one. Essentially, you could have some kind of stake and slashing system where maybe it's delivered directly from the FTSO or signal providers do it. They can put up value, essentially saying, we believe that, or we're giving you an accurate price. And if however the algorithm works, determining whether it's accurate or not, if it's not accurate, they could slash some of the stake you put up for the price, and basically the dApp that was getting that information would get that slash stake, and you would lose out. Otherwise, if you just continually provide, accurate price feeds, nothing malicious, you could just be paid fees for every single signal that goes through, or maybe like Hugo says, it's in a batch. So with that, that allows another way. Let's say you staked your FXRP in that to earn Ethereum because some dApp on Ethereum is using the FTSO. To me, that's a really interesting future use case. Another one that occurred to me is I'm curious if we'll be able to see kind of like the beginning of like an atomic settlement cross-chain between 2 different assets on 2 different blockchains using the stake connector system, since it allows you to signal state changes between different networks in Flare network. I think that would be really cool. I'm sure they have more things in mind. I feel like maybe that's one of them they're thinking about, but I don't really know why it hadn't dawned on me till I saw this. So with that, I'm going to wrap up here. Really appreciate Tony interviewing Hugo. He always does a great job. Additionally, if you want to see the whole one, I'll link it in the description below, or go to Thinking Crypto on YouTube. That's Tony's channel. And yeah, last reminder, Crypto Siege coming on tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST with me and Mickey for a live stream. Really looking forward to that. Siege is a really great guy to talk to about DeFi and, really into it with researching and utilizing it. So with that, I'm Patty XRP, and this is the DeFi Standard. I'm out.